With the 32nd pick in the NFL draft for 2022, the Minnesota Vikings have taken Georgia safety Lewis Cine. And this is, we got a little mini safety run. They moved back from 12 to get Lewis Cine. They add some future picks. Croc, what do you think of the tape from Lewis Cine? That was a guy that I love to watch.
Yeah, well, people thought they'd go safety, but they just thought it would be Kyle Hamilton at pick 12. And it looks like it's Lewis Cine. And I mean, he is my safety one in this class, so
wow.
I was that high on him. A guy, when you talk about how he closes ground on guys that are carrying the ball, it's crazy the speed that he displays. And he also displayed that at the combine, running in the 4.3s. Another guy that's really hot on the ground. But, I mean, he lays hat, right? I mean, he's laying a hammer on guys. The way he was able to come down on guys against Alabama, I saw one matchup where he kind of lost against Robinson, where Robinson kind of drove him back a little bit, but it didn't matter. Next time he had that opportunity, he came down and hit him just as hard. Then you see him in coverage. You're talking about a lot of teams that go to more too high, and they want guys that can play quarters, defense, and safeties that can match up in space with the receivers pushing vertically, and he does that extremely well, getting in phase, getting his head around, knocking the ball away. So I think he just has an overall game that translates very well to the NFL, as well as the high-end athletic ability too.
We have Lucas Braun from Locked On Vikings to bring his take on all of this, and Kai is with him.
Checking with Locked On Vikings a little bit later than we probably thought we were going to, right? So expectation versus reality with them trading down. Are you surprised with the way this shook out?
Well, first things first, Peter, you don't get to call me Lucas. Your team didn't draft well enough today for that, okay? Look, the trade down is weird because Kyle Hamilton was on the board, and they trade down to 32 on historically based trade charts that are made off of like what teams typically pay. The Lions paid less than teams typically pay to go from 32 to 12. But on like outcome based charts that measure like how picks tend to work out, the Vikings project to come out ahead, right? So you got to hit on the picks. But it seems like the Vikings didn't really go with what the market usually is. And maybe they could have gotten more out of the Lions for that. And it's a divisional rival. Jamison Williams was on the board. They obviously wanted him really, really bad. I feel like they could have eked more out of the Lions for that. Picking Lewis Cine, though, is really interesting because I kind of thought, okay, Hamilton, they passed on Hamilton. They must like Cameron Bynum, who started a couple games at safety last year, looked pretty good. Maybe they're ready for him to take the next step, but then they take a safety anyways. And Lewis Cine is not your average safety, right? Like he's a lot more versatile. He can insert in the run really well. He can kind of fly that quick trigger downhill, that 4.37 speed. So they got a fast safety, and maybe they just wanted a fast safety and they were worried about Hamilton's speed, which personally I super disagree with. I think his 40 time is kind of lying to us, and you can see on tape how fast he is. But I guess that might be where the Vikings land.
Luke, it's one of those weird drafts where like we were kind of off base, and now it's at the point where people are just taking who they like no matter where their pick really is. So do you feel like they were just kind of honed in on him at this point and they just went with it?
I don't think so. Look, I can only really go on my own board, right? I don't know what the Vikings looks like, so maybe he was the highest guy by a mile, right? But it was kind of who happened to be their highest guy on the board, right? I could have taken Andrew Booth there. I would have loved if they took Malik Willis. Kind of hard to see them taking a quarterback the same offseason they extend one. I could have taken Boye Mafe, Minnesota guy, University of Minnesota guy, Kyler Gordon, Logan Hall. There were a lot of players that I would have been okay with. But Lewis Cine, for me, probably my second favorite thing they could have done after take Malik Willis.
Okay, so good on your list then. We appreciate you, Luke, for checking in with us. We're closing out the first round. It's been a long, weird day so far. Peter, what do you guys have for us? Or what is your recap of the day, I guess?
I know the guy that covers the poverty franchise is not talking about who is doing drafting well and who is not. I don't know about that. Lucas Braun, when we come back, we will wrap up round one. We will go biggest shocks, best player available as we head into day two. Of course, we will be here live tomorrow on the Locked On NFL YouTube page and Saturday. You cannot get rid of us. A lot more coming up.